start now because you will miss the first. Serena, then we don't. It's too much.
I can just do it and then you use it.
Wait. So maybe
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to all the people here in this room, in Tamara, Portugal, Southwest Europe. And welcome to all our students around the world. This is the sixth and last webinar of this online course with the title Terra Nova, Global Revolution and the Healing of Love. This webinar is an opportunity for students who study in this course to ask questions, deepening questions. And this week is on the issue of Eros and religion. Reunifying two fundamental currents of human longing, of human existence, two that have been separated through history, and how we can imagine a future culture where the human being is one again because they are together. And the questions tonight will go to Sabine Lichtenfels, who is in many ways a pioneer in exploring a kind of religion for the future culture, strongly connected with the feminine sources of prehistory. And then here is Mara Vollmer, who is one of the people in the core of the political ashram of Tamara, which is in a way the center to bring together the spiritual with the political work. Thank you for being here tonight. And our students gave us powerful questions. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation. The first question I want to raise comes from a woman from Israel called Tali, who describes that she spent the last week in a in a beautiful nature place in the north of Israel. And while she had this like loving encounter with her partner in a nature place, she heard the bombings from Syria, just 20 kilometers away. And she asks, how can our heart contain these two realities, paradise and love, and the hell of people just across the border? And also a question many other people raised, like how can we enjoy Eros while we live in a world full of war? Yeah, and this I want to put to the two of you.
I have the same question quite often. And the older I become, the more I feel there is something where it's our duty to recognize the beauty and the depth of life. And in this sense, for me, I know this bombing. I often went to crisis areas, and there is a point where one normally really wants to give up. Where is there a point, do we have hope in life? And when I then watch how nature works, and this is for me, it's not religion, it's life itself, to come in contact with what is life doing. And everywhere where there are wounds in life, the power of the universe comes to heal, comes to bring new sacred patterns of life. And so I feel more and more the call to bring us to this kind of awareness, because only then we will find the sources which enable us to overcome war. And so if we speak about Eros, I mean this deep, deep, deep level of life. What creates life? What is always bringing new life to the world? And to face it on this level. And then it's a miracle that there are still loving couples are able to embrace them by facing what is happening right now on this planet. And my question is more the opposite. How do the loving couples learn to take their power, what they receive from the universe, to bring their compassion towards life, and to act and to use the power of love and Eros, to not fear but to deeply listen to the inner guidance and to know when they have to act in the name of healing. So I would turn the question around, but I can also say I have this question, I had it really often. And it's again and again this question, how do we stay in hope? And how do we connect with the universal power?
Thank you. Do you want to add?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I also thought somehow it is our duty to recognize and honor the spaces where we can still be in bliss, in joy, in gratitude. And also with Eros, I think that if we manage to liberate Eros from fear and violence, then we as human beings regain a power that we then also need to stop war. So and this is why these two worlds have to come together in order to regain our potential for peace. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's quite a frame for our work. The next question comes from Anne-Laure from Belgium, who asks mainly about like the term of how we can speak today of religion. And she says that these days people have such an aversion to religion that even the words sacred or divine are difficult in our secular world. How would you explain it? How would you explain it to outsiders or children? Would you speak of the miracle of life, of nature? what is your how do you explain the sacred to an atheist?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question because there is so much confusion about it.
Yeah.
And in a way it's true, I would not speak about religion because religion is so much occupied from a world power which misused the power. But nevertheless, in the core, religion means only to reconnect with the source. And how to describe it, I think only if we come to the moment of awareness what life is about, I'm at once in the miracle of what we call religion. I'm at once in this kind of, wow, what a mystery. And it's, yes, you only have to watch nature without naming everything at once. This is a tree, this is the sky, this is the sea. No, for a moment silent and only coming to awareness. And this brings me back to the source, what we often name religion, or spirituality is also a difficult word. They are also misused. But also a secularized world, many people then started to fight religion, and this is also not an answer. I still remember when I was very young, I asked myself, do I believe in God? What is God? And then I came to a very simple answer. I said, I don't understand anything of me. I don't understand what created me. I don't know why I can speak. I even can't explain why I can say I am. And so in the center, I was always guided to this, what we call religion. And so I said, there must be something, even if it's not a God behind the things, but there is in the center a miracle. And I want to create life spaces where we honor this. And this we call sacred. Life itself is the religion. Life itself is the sacred. Yeah.
Thank you.
Not so much.
Anything? That's okay.
I mean, there are beautiful examples. No? For example, when you dig a deep hole into the earth, and then this miracle that after a while healing plants are growing at these places by itself. And who or what does it? Yeah? What kind of somehow universal logic lies underneath the things that we see in our daily life? Or and this is what we want to connect to when we speak of religion.
Thank you. So now there was, in the online study, there was a whole segment about veiling and unveiling as a principle of religion that also is connected to Eros. And so Amaya, a participant from the United States, asked that she has a sense of what it means, a preliminary depth of understanding of the two and their relation to Eros and sexuality, but also in a way of its opposite, of how veiling is being used to actually separate and suppress Eros. So she asked, could you please explain in greater depth and possibly give examples of veiling and unveiling in its connection to Eros and sexuality, and also examples of its current state of separateness from Eros and sexuality?
If in the center there would be the honoring of Eros as the sacred mystery of life, then veiling and unveiling is a beautiful play. It's really beautiful. I still remember when I saw the first veiled women, where you only see their eyes. Wow, it's so something you want to look what's behind. You want to see, you want to come in contact. And this is a I would say, a natural, beautiful game of Eros. But because we were trained so much in the way that Eros is not allowed, then it's something where in the center there is shame. In the center there is something forbidden, there is something dirty, and then it's misused. We are just coming back from a little group where we shared our first stories when we were 10, 11, 13 years old, what we heard about, yeah. And when I was young, to be naked was very, very, something dark, especially as a woman. And I still remember when I was with the youth group on an island, and we girls were walking one line and some boys came from the other side. And nuns were going with us, and I was in the last line, and some boys whistled to us. And I was, wow, curious, and I went, hey, hello. And then the nun said, you will never become a real human being that you react like this. Soon you will go naked to them, yeah? And it was like, what a punishment. And I had to stay at home, arrested. And so these are the things which are in the hidden lines why Eros became so dark and forbidden. But so I think that we are dressed, that we make ourselves beautiful, this is part of human culture. And this is nice. Yeah.
I mean that this is then so misused in many, many cultures. This is really the other side of the coin. I think very often when we look into society and globalization, so that actually symbols that usually create or catch a sacred image, they are now misused for cruelty and for suppression. And I think it's the same as this, that women have to be veiled, that they are not allowed anymore to show who they really are. No.
I mean, in a way, it has become a point of power, and I think the question also asks, like, will this exist in a culture where there is no power game in a way between man and woman, where there is this full honoring and respect for each other?
Yeah, this has to be in the center, honoring all life.
Go to the next question. So, Wim from Netherlands, he refers to something that Sabine said in one of the interviews. The creation of, it's a quote of you, the creation of functioning communities requires that each person consciously reconnects to the divine world. End of the quote. And he asks, how can you ask certain things like this from people in forming communities? A commonly used phrase is, no obligations, just do something if you really want it. But how do you bring this kind of spiritual consciousness, reconnection with the divine world? How do you cultivate it in the community?
It's interesting. Because there is a certain way of you want your freedom, no obligation, and in a way, I would say yes, it's true. Everybody should really go for what he or she really loves. So it's in a way to find out a way of not pushing things, but making them seducing to come to this awareness. It's like building attraction points. And there I see that I feel the call to create cultures where we come back to this kind of awareness, to this kind of celebration. Learning, for example, to think again. We had in our talk before, that when we were young we were not allowed to put our real questions. Then in church, when I asked, why could I love only, why cannot I love more men if I shall love others like myself? Then we said, if you put such a question once more, you will go out. So this is a kind of learning by punishment. But I think every child normally would be very curious, wants to learn, and an adult has to support this process. And then we will be guided to points where there is obligation. It's life itself carries something like what we call obligation. So I often bring this example: the son doesn't ask, do I have good or bad mood? She comes in the morning and she goes down in the evening. It becomes light and darkness, and there are also some inner obligations where we follow our natural growth. And if we don't do it, something happens to us until we awake. Life itself helps us to come to awareness. And every person has its own path in this.
I mean, I guess the question also goes in the direction of, especially with the spiritual topic, because in a way, as you said about the history of religion, I mean, we are all kind of burnt children, and so there is this no to this rejection. And so what is the way of bringing this up in a new way in the community? Maybe something about the political ashram.
Yeah. I mean, this is, for us in the political ashram, the core question: how do we make the studying of the other reality as attractive as our old patterns of thinking, for example? And I can say that
before you say this, you can just explain what the political, what a political ashram is.
Yeah. So, a political ashram here in Palmyra is a place in which the research about God or Goddess, the divine world, comes together with the political view into the world, with healing knowledge, also with the knowledge of Sabine Lichtenfels, the female peace knowledge, with the thinking school, and we concentrate a lot on, like when we take all these aspects of life and bring them together, what lies underneath and where are the powers of healing that we need to access in order to survive, in order to succeed with our goals that we have. And this is the political ashram, to study what is the logic, the other reality, we call it in the moment. No. And I mean, now I said already a lot, but I think, like somehow it feels as if we need something which is like a new belief system, something where we can believe in that is stronger than our old belief sentences of jealousy and anger and revenge and mistrust in the community. And in the spiritual realm, there are lying other thoughts, universal thoughts that we can access and where we can learn to use them again for our life, and to suddenly, by studying this, gaining possibilities for peace and for healing that we wouldn't have without studying these other logics.
Maybe just to add, for me, we have in Tantra the stone circle, where we have 96 stones standing, and I often call it the nature cathedral of Tantra. And this reflects a point where we say no religion in the center, but honoring life and finding ways to celebrate this. And I think every person who wants to build community will, after a while, notice that community is not only happening between human beings. And so I would give the deep advice: if you want to build community, find something higher. And find something which connects you on a higher level where you all are interested in. Because this brings unification, this brings something to the center of awareness. And the stone circle is a symbol for this, that every being has its own connection to the universe, and no one is the same. And on the other side, something unites you as community. And to find ways, we are in the beginning, we also have to figure out how does it really work. We have not a full answer, but it's an important part.
Want to make it a little bit more tangible? Tangible. That, for example, there are some people who don't live anymore. They wrote books about their time in the concentration camp, and in this, and they write how in the midst of the worst situation you can imagine, they discovered this other power of life, this inherent power of life, and this made them survive. And one person, Chuck Le, he describes it in an amazing way, how he was already pushed away into the chamber where all the sick ones are pushed into in the concentration camp, and everyone said he will die anyway. And then in this moment where like really the organs stopped working and so, and suddenly he writes, suddenly he discovered life as he never discovered life before. And it was life that saved my life. And these are for us, these are not only like arbitrary things that maybe happen to some people who are gifted by it, but these are, they show a reality, and we want to create a system of life where we can consciously step into this reality again.
There's another question from the same man. Maybe just to continue this kind of line of thought, where he asks, how can one practically, by group exercises for example, reconnect with this experience of universal unity? Also, which books and or videos can you recommend? So somebody wants to know it very quickly.
So,
I mean, maybe you can also just describe some of the practices.
yeah, I would never suggest methods, because methods are often distracting. Nevertheless, I can say what helped me.
Yeah.
And for me, for example, the first step is to bear witness. And if you, for example, try to be 5 minutes really in silence, then you will notice how much is going on in your head and how much discussions and things and so on. And we see how much we are in our mind. And then, for example, I loved it. I love Vision Quest, where you sit under a tree, you have nothing to read, to be distracted, and you just want to come to awareness. And then suddenly there is this opening where maybe you see a tree the first time in your life. And suddenly the higher consciousness can fully enter to your system. Or I love it to pilgrimages, to walk and to find my own speed and to find the awareness. It's the only thing. To find awareness is the beginning of to come in contact with the mystery of life. And
Can you say more what you mean by awareness? Because I think it's quite deep how you know it.
Yeah, there is this difference. We think what is tomorrow, what is soon, what is in the next moment, what was yesterday, you hurted me, it triggered me. And there is something in between what is only existing in reality. This is now. And there we are normally never. And we can train ourselves to come to this kind of, it's now. If I want to change my life, I can make a lot of plans, and it's important. I like it, it's really important. But the real shift is now. And this I mean with awareness, and if you come to this moment, then you will notice how much is opening in one moment. If you allow it. I like the senses, there is a power guiding us. das ist eine Macht. She's always there. And it's the question whether I'm ready to open for it. And then I find guidance. I myself, I made journeys where I made nothing else than to follow my inner voice. To look whether I really trust to it. And this is a learning. Or we started the Ring of Power, where we do every Monday morning a meditation with sunrise, and we choose a cooperation partner. This can be a tree, or a rat, or a fly, or whatever you want to choose to understand who are you. And awareness means not a concept of it, but touching it really. And there's, I cannot explain it, it's suddenly you know from inside. And you can do this exercise with the question, who am I? Who am I? And then deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And you will meet the divine. There is nothing else which stays, only the divine.
Just want to say for our students that Sabine now mentioned the Ring of Power, and that this is a practice that we also want to recommend to all the students that now conclude the course to join, and that we will provide more information. So this is just a note.
Maybe when you provide more information, you can also put some books and so in for this question.
Yeah.
Beautiful question, but it would be great to have a little list.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's better to make a list. Not
Yeah. We don't need to. For this kind of hour in the day. Thank you very much for this answer. Now there is a question a bit on another topic. I will just read it. It's from Alice from United Kingdom. She says that there's a subject that she's been struggling with throughout the last lessons of the online course, which is on the use of gendered language in the videos and the texts, especially the use of masculine terms for anything detrimental or humanity in general, and feminine terms for anything healing or spiritual. I feel that such language only widens the divide between the genders that we have spent several lessons on ways to heal, and does not include those who do not fit into a gender binary. Is there any way this could be altered to be more inclusive regarding gender in the future?
This is interesting. I don't have an answer so quick. For me, I'm astonished, because for me it's not at all. I feel the masculine part and the feminine part are both so divine. And in the core, it's unity. But we, in our education and so on, we had to suppress the feminine part so much. And then the feminine part started to fight the masculine part. And before the masculine part in the patriarchal culture fought the feminine part. And this is for me not a question whether we are monogam or homosexual or whatever. We all have these aspects inside of us. In the center there is unity, from there comes polarity. We have the two brains bringing our thinking together. And these are the feminine and the masculine aspect. And I feel also that I don't feel, it's not easy to be a man in this time, I have to admit, because there is so much accusation to the patriarchal culture and the man and the boy and so on. And also even the sexual part they are accused at, yeah. And in this sense I want to apologize for all the women who are fighting so much the masculine aspect. The other side is true from the past too. And fight doesn't help. So we have to rediscover the really healthy aspect in both.
There is another question, especially for you, Sabine. You described a situation in one of the interviews that we put as education material. And I will just read a quote. You said, "I have often been in situations which could have become sexually violent. it was because I could find the source. It was because I could find the source that I did not cry or resist physically. Instead, I opened to the situation, and through this opening, a helping force could enter. The person who would otherwise would have become violent changed because of this, of the way how I faced him. End of the quote. And the woman who read this says that she had the feeling it just sounds like you were being raped and you decided it was okay. And that she wants to ask for a clarification of what you actually mean by this kind of shift in such a situation.
Oh, these are really tricky points to make it in the online course because they are so sensitive. You must really find the right language. But of course, I was not raped. But I would have raped. I would have been raped if I would have, for example, the simple example, when I was very young, I had to go through a dark path to reach my home in the evening. And the man was waiting behind the tree because he knew she would come there, I think. And he jumped behind the tree and he took me in a way. And normally I would have started to shout. It's the first reaction. And I knew at once, no, don't do this. And this was the helping energy. And if I would have done this, I think his violent power would have been forced to my reaction. But in this moment, the idea came to me that I said, I am very sick. I have typhus. And from this you can die. And so this was a moment where all the things why he wanted to catch me were out. And it was a higher power. I did not think about this before, but the higher power guided me to find a way to calm down. And then I could speak with him and I could say, why do you do this? Don't do this. It's not the right way to approach a woman. But this was only because in this moment I did not follow the pattern of fear. And so a higher power could enter. And this I mean, and I had more often situations like this where I can say I bow for this divine power, and that in these moments there was a wisdom which helped me to open for this.
Thank you for the clarification. Dealing with hot topics. Yeah.
I think these are so hot topics. This is the reason why I say we need love schools, where one with a fine and intimate way can speak about this, that we can regain our gentle power, the men as well as the women, to avoid violence.
Yeah, and I think also the situation that you described is so, in a way, unusual. Stepping out of this pattern in that way, suddenly a whole new level opens up. And it's worthwhile to really go slow in taking this information in. So now there is a question about Tantra from a man called Rafa from Spain, where he says that he finds that in many of the points that were raised in this online course that it resonates with tantric views, like uniting sexuality and spirituality, honoring the sacredness of life and the body, restoring the balance between the masculine and the feminine. He writes, as a student of Tantra, I know that often Tantra can be seen as a bit stuck in traditional models, but I wonder if there is any place for tantric wisdom, for your proposal for a new spirituality that brings together sexuality and consciousness. So, how do you view Tantra?
I am not a specialist in this, so that's the reason why I cannot fully answer. I know a lot of tantric teachers where I feel, yes, in our society it's a good, maybe important path. Many of them teach that at the end you will transform Eros. And as far as I see, I want not to transform it, I want to give space for it that it's really honored in the culture. But yes, I think it's a possible part for sure.
Yeah, maybe I could also say that I think from the content-wise and so there are very many similarities, and like we in Tamera, we are comparing it to Tantra. I would say that we don't use actually any methods, or I don't know if I can speak about methods in Tantra either, but we don't use any methods, I call it now, like this, but we in the center of our love school and Eros school stands truth and contact, and this is somehow the method we use in order to maybe achieve similar liberty and freedom, truthfulness than one is searching in Tantra. So.
And maybe also to say that the focus of Tamera is always how do we create new systems, how do we create new societies, and that Tantra can be a part of it. But we feel to come to a new culture, we have to find a system change and a political transformation, spiritual transformation, and this is our focus more.
So now I want to ask a question from Helena, who's actually living here in Denmark, from the UK, who says that she writes that unrequited love is a big spiritual challenge. So love that is not answered. It invites an opening. She writes, it invites an opening for unconditional love, but in circumstances that can trigger all the deepest fears about being unloved, rejected, even exploited. How can you use a case of unrequited love to grow in power and compassion, both from the side of the lover and the lovey, the beloved? Love school.
I can try it. I thought first of all that to do it alone it's really hard. Wow. I already have so much work to do in a community with this thoughts. And I love that it's Harald, no?
No, Helena.
Helena. I like that she says it's a spiritual challenge. It's a spiritual challenge. Because what I do in such cases is that I'm again and again looking if I am still able to see the image of love in the person I want love from. Like to turn it around. Am I still able to see this image of love? And I feel it innerly that as long as I am still able, there is a possibility for it to come together again. And this is the inner certainty that comes in these moments, which then I can say it's really a spiritual challenge to stay with my point of love towards the person and to trust that then there are other logics of life, the principle of resonance, for example, that if I really love this person, then at one point love will be answered. But this is also, it's really a spiritual challenge because it almost never comes immediately. But we have to learn staying with the faithful to the point of love in you. And for me this is somehow the answer that gives me the most encouragement to stay faithful on this path.
Yeah, in a way, for me this is really, there you can see how much it's connected. Our personal love relationships are very connected to how we perceive life in the center. And imagine that we fully have trust that in the center of the universe there is the guidance of universal love. And imagine you awake every morning and you feel, I am loved. And from there you act, because you are in the connection to the power of love. And normally we are in a state, where is the one who loves me? So because we have so much fear of loss, relationship often starts to change in this kind of I want, I hope, I am, and so on. And I had always, if I notice, oh, maybe he doesn't love back to me, I first have to find my own love, really. Or maybe I don't really love back anymore, and I'm not fully honest with it. And I feel if you really connect with the deepest love, the universe will mirror this back. But this is, like Mara says, this takes a long, long trust. But to do the steps consciously and train it can help a lot. For example, I often bring this example. I have a lover who was loved from so many women, and I could be guided always from this fear of loss. And once I noticed, I love him so much, I won't leave him anymore. This I saw suddenly, and this changed very much the fear of loss. And then when there were problems, okay, then I noticed, oh, at the moment it seems I'm not so interesting for him. Maybe I should work on myself, that I can change. Or when I notice, oh, now I start to challenge him and to say, I want, and notice, oh, it's not the best way. So you invest in your own development. But in the center, for me, it's really the spiritual path, where there is something where we have not the full trust to the universal powers. If this comes back, we will fully trust that the universe will guide us in our love relationships. Yeah. And I cannot prove it, but I would say where you really love, love comes back.
And you can prove it also.
I can prove it, yeah, I can prove it. I also know the challenges. I have a pain with my first partner, the father of my eldest daughter. Until now, I know that he loves me, and I know that I feel love towards him. But there is still the struggle where he cannot say, okay, forgiveness. And maybe it happens next lifetime, I don't know. But I nourish the love in it.
Thank you. So now there is a question, a bit in a similar direction, but on the sexual side. Why is it, from Jana from Germany, why is it that there is sexual attraction to some people and to some people not? Has it to do with our habitual dealing with sexual energy and attraction?
I have no answer. I can say this answer I leave to the spirit of life. But if I approach a worldview where I could imagine that free Eros is allowed, I have to find an answer that in a trusting way. And there I can say, also there, find your inner source, find your inner trust, find your who you are. And from there you will find the resonance. And thanks, it's not everybody saying a rose and a calendula and a tree, they have different energy fields. And we can find our energy field in it.
And that's also important for free sexuality, that it doesn't mean at all that one has to go with everyone. Yeah, it's really exactly the opposite. It means that you say yes when you mean yes, nothing else.
Curious questions.
And maybe also there, of course, in our society there are so much comparison, yeah. We have a industry which nourishes certain pictures. This is beautiful, this is not so beautiful. And all this we will overcome. Maybe there is a first reaction where you mainly look to the outfit. But at the end, It's the deeper source which will reveal the real Eros and the real trust. And this is important. Yeah, because if not, then people say, okay, the pretty ones have a chance and the other ones not.
Yeah.
And this is not true. If you look deeper, it's not true. Yeah. And new women's solidarity is such an important point in it, yeah. And we have all our own form. We have to come back who we are meant to be.
Thank you. So, maybe the last question from Gerald from the United States. It's about the wild nature, because also connecting Eros and religion in a way also has to do with liberating the animal inside of the human being. And I think he points to a question that is present in quite many people, which is that as the wild nature, like the inner wild nature, the sexual wild nature, or also the spiritual one, has been excluded for so long from our consciousness, from our culture, that now it threatens us as a destructive force, almost as outside of us. And so there is this fear of destruction from this side, in ourselves and in the outside. And he asks, how do you deal with it? Like, how do you invite this power back in a way that leads to beauty and cooperation and not to destruction?
Yeah. I mean, my first answer is through creating spaces of truth and trust. It's really my first answer. I mean, it's so like maybe this Eve and Lilith, these two sides that are lying within every woman. Some women have more the Lilith side, others more the Eve side. But these two sides of life, they want to come together. This is almost like Eve religion and Lilith Eros, yeah? It's almost, there's not a separation, like strong separation, but still. And it's exactly the point. It's exactly the point to create spaces where this high life energy, wild energy, that usually leads into war and anger and fight, that we don't stop this energy, but that we learn to redirect it into a channel of trust. And the core in this is creating spaces where truth can be revealed and where trust can be created.
I think this is a deep question, and it needs a big study time to understand fully what it's about. But if we look in our culture at the moment, it's so strong that Eros is so forbidden and only at some places allowed. And so a lot of violence is happening right now because of the hidden Eros. And how to approach, it's first that we come to awareness of this fact. We cannot open the doors and say, now act. It would create immense trouble. But we need spaces where we come to the awareness of those aspects. For example, for women to come in contact with the hidden lust, also with the hidden anger. We need forum spaces where we, with art and other things, make them visible to ourselves and to others. And from there, we don't want to create wildlife. We want to cultivate this aspect and to say, yes, it's part of life. And we have to find places where it's not creating violence, where it's creating deeper contact, where it's creating trust. And there a whole new system is needed. And I think it will take some generations until it's really seen. But to come in contact in this, then we know where the work is to do. And it's often a big misunderstanding. I often, if people come and they see, oh, my white nature, I'm so wild, or they try to express them. But this is not about this. It's how to describe. It's really first, it starts with silence. And from there noticing which kind of energies are there. And how can I come to bring a voice to it, to express it in a form that it doesn't hurt anybody and that it's in contact. We are human beings and we want to illuminate the white nature, but we want to bring awareness to it and to allow it to be.
Okay. Thank you very much for this. I still want to say something?
I think maybe just because this was beautiful how you described it now, that it's really the white nature in itself is nothing bad at all. But the blockages we carry because of the history, they make the white energy cruel, the white nature. And our anger comes so often because the white nature is suppressed. This is why it searches for a channel to break through, and if we are in full mistrust, then often, or in a pain situation, it has almost no other possibility often than to break through in anger or revenge. But it's not because the white nature is there.
That's important.
It was really interesting dive, like so many deep issues, and thank you for opening windows into all these different rooms. And I can just say that also this online course was now an attempt to take these amazingly deep topics and to put them into a curriculum where we can somehow touch. And at the same time, I hope that the study continues and continues, that we really embrace these issues in the depth that they deserve. So thank you for answering these questions.
Thank you to the people in the world for taking part.
At such a late hour in the evening.
I mean, for some it's in the morning, so it's different.
Thank you,
So, and this was also it for this phase now. We had now 6 webinars here that also were hosted as public events. Next week we have another format for the online course where we speak to the students, so we ask all of you in the world to actually be there on time, not just to listen it afterwards. Yeah, thank you very much and see you there. Good evening to everybody here.
Bye.